Good to see you again, John.
Yes, Dave, same feeling here.
John, you deny the scriptures by ignoring that believers can lose their salvation. For example, in the Bible, you can see that Adam and Eve lost their salvation. Lucifer lost his salvation. Angels that fell lost their salvation. To deny that a believer who sins loses his salvation is to deny these examples that I just gave you.
Okay, Dave. It is conceded that Adam, Eve, Lucifer, and many angels fell and became unsaved, if you will. The problem with those examples is that none of them were saved before they fell. Let me explain what I mean. When I say that they were not saved, what I mean is that to be saved first you need to be lost. God did not create any of them in a lost state and then saved them. To be saved means that you have to be rescued from danger. In the state in which Adam, Eve, Lucifer, and angels were when they were created was not a state of having been rescued from danger. It is conceded that they became lost. But they never lost salvation because they were never saved from anything before they fell. They could not have lost what they did not have, that is, salvation. They did lose the state in which they were before they fell. What state were they in? Well, the opposite of corrupt. Uncorrupt, pure, clean, unblemished, undefiled, holy. Whatever the state they were in is called, when they disobeyed God's word, they became corrupt, impure, dirty, blemished, defiled, profane. Now, a believer is someone who once was lost and now is saved. Adam and Eve, Lucifer, and angels are not good examples of believers losing their salvation. A good example would be a lost man who became saved by faith and then lost that salvation.
All right. I will give you several examples. King Saul lost his salvation. Solomon lost his salvation. Judas lost his salvation. Ananias and Sapphira lost their salvation. Demas lost his salvation. Shall I continue on, John?
That won't be necessary, Dave. Show me which one of those characters was saved to begin with and where it states that they lost their salvation.
That will not be hard at all, John. King Saul was chosen by God, he prophesied with the prophets, and he had the Spirit of the Lord, whom later on departed from Saul. Then Saul committed suicide, and as I have noted before in Revelation 21:8, 1 Corinthians 6 verses 9 and 10, and Galatians 5:19 through 21, murderers are included in the list of those who will not inherit the kingdom of heaven. Now, someone who commits suicide is a murderer of self, so that qualifies Saul as a believer who lost his salvation.
Very well, Dave. How does being chosen, as Saul was, qualify him as saved? God chose heathen men, but that does not mean that they were saved. Balaam was chosen to bless Israel, yet he was not saved. Cyrus was chosen to destroy Babylon and allow Jews to return to Jerusalem, yet not saved. The Babylonians were chosen to chastise Judah and not saved. Second, prophesying does not guarantee that one is saved. Balaam prophesied and was not saved. Balaam's mule prophesied and was not saved. Caiaphas, the high priest who was an unbeliever, prophesied according to John 11 verses 49 through 52, and he was not saved as seen in John 18 verses 13 through 22. Now, I am not saying that Saul was not saved. I just want to point out that your reasoning does not prove that he was saved. Let's see if your reasoning proves that he lost his salvation. As far as suicide goes, as delicate as the subject of suicide is, I am sure that you agree with me that it is wrong for a believer to strap himself to a bomb and kill himself in the process of killing his enemies. Well, Samson made a decision that he knew would cost him his life when he took revenge on the Philistines. He said, "Let me die with the Philistines," as he pushed the two beams to kill the Philistines. Yet in Hebrews 11:32 he is mentioned in the list of those who had faith. If suicidal and disobedient Samson lost his salvation, why would God include him in the list of faithful? This is not to say that it is guaranteed that a so-called believer who commits suicide will go to heaven. All I am saying is that in Samson's case, Samson performed a suicidal act and is mentioned in the list of faithful. That is all. Outside of what the Bible states, I am not willing to speculate further, and I do not condone suicide. Anyone claiming to be a believer who is contemplating suicide needs to make a self-assessment of his faith. Such a person may not be saved at all and on their way to hell. I do not want to be dogmatic about this, but nobody should be using Samson's suicidal act as justification to commit suicide. Another thing is that when Saul consulted with the witch at Endor, when Samuel's spirit arose, he told Saul that he was going to die and go to be where he was. You can read that in 1 Samuel 28. Was Samuel in hell? If Saul was going to hell, and Samuel said that Saul would go where he was, then Samuel must have been in hell. Or, Samuel was not in hell and Saul would go to where Samuel was. The Bible does not state that Solomon lost his salvation. It does indicate that he died at an earlier age than his father David. That confirms what the Bible teaches about God chastising his children.